Good evening. This is the RetroTech 120p challenge. It is a thing where you get as many goes as you like, but as soon as you've pressed record, it's those 2 credits that are the ones that count. So make sure you've had a bit of a practice run, especially on this one, because it's very difficult. It's one of my suggestions. It is Lightbringer, a beat-em-up come RPG come platformer. Quite a unique little thing, this, which is why I selected it. It's frustrating when you first start playing it, because it's not an easy beat 'em up. This I've finished it, but only because I've played it like loads of times and put loads of credits in before. I think I played it about a year ago, and I was fascinated by it because it's so unique as an RPG. I must apologise, by the way, if you can hear a helicopter in the background. Basically, there is a helicopter very close by. This is the day the Queen was buried, and I don't know, maybe they're looking for someone who's not being sorrowful enough or something. I watched the whole thing, even though I hated every minute of it. I mean, it's not about an enjoyment thing, is it? But it wasn't it wasn't in any way a fascinating thing to watch. I don't know, there was just no emotion to it, and it was just a lot of they found every single vicar in the country, and they all read their own little psalm. The only person that sort of spoke about apart from them was Liz Truss, and I was just thinking, well, okay, well, that's 5 hours of my life I'm not going to get back. But that's not about me. It's if that's how the way they wanted to do their funerals, that's how they do it. So getting away from the royalty talk and the failty talk and whatever, let's talk about this. It is a game that came out in 1994 by Taito. It didn't come out in any other formats as far as I'm aware. It was on Taito Legends 2 on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox. It's about a magician that has evoked an evil spirit, which has then consequently gone and snatched the princess. And so 4 brave warriors then take to their sandals, head out there and see if they can recover the poor lady before she gets herself into all kinds of trouble. So actually quite apropos with the Queen's funeral today, obviously royalty and medievalness and family and things like that. So yeah, all cool. So yeah, it's quite a clever game in the fact that it takes a lot of RPG elements. So like things you get in Final Fantasy and Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot, it does a lot of that as well. So you get things you get in those games, such as, you know, obviously magic spells and things like that. But you also get things like elemental damage. So if you have like say if you're the female character who's got like a bow and arrow loaded with ice arrows, they're good against fire enemies, that kind of thing. There's there's poison effects, there's other effects that affect you. Everything on the screen that isn't part of the scenery is damageable, and so therefore usually contains like a gem or some sort of food or some sort of power up. There's those I don't know what they call those boxes in Dark Souls, but there's the mock boxes that attack you, the mock crates. Someone set me right in the YouTube comments. There's spells cast. You can get damage from all sorts of things. There's switches. It's quite a big game, actually. You'll see me play through most of the first level, but there's about 7 levels that are all this sort of size. I played through it all last year, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's a cracking little game, this. It's very difficult. The only reason I played through it is because it's on MAME, isn't it? And you're just whacking as many credits as you like. But you don't get much health for your credits. You get 2 lives. You don't get much health. It gives you multiple paths throughout the zone. You can pick up shields. Shields will absorb damage depending on how good the shield is. That's quite a decent looking shield as opposed to the wooden one that I've used previously. I think that was in the bar. Did I use it on this go? I don't know. I think it might have been on my practice go. But all the enemies attack in different ways. It's not a game that I can see people getting particularly deep in this week, but I could see people maybe finishing the first level. 2 credits is not going to get you massively far, unless you know maybe where all the all the secrets and power-ups are. So the platform elements are quite good. There's issues with the game though. Like just outside the bar at the beginning, there's some really good loot and treasure on top of the bar itself. But you have to kind of arrange the crates like you would on something like Head Over Heels or something like that. And it's quite difficult to get to them in time because there's a very strict time limit on each screen before some ghosts are attacking you. And the ghosts are a bit like those ghosts from the Final Fantasy VII revival. They just sort of swoop around you and damage you. So it could have done without the time limit, I think, this game, because it's hard enough as it is. But it is cool. It's a cool game. It's got filled with a lot of different things. I'm using the Wizard of Old here, who is actually, I think, probably if you're going to be doing this RetroTech playthrough, I recommend giving him a go because he's probably the sturdiest of the characters. He's got really good spells. He hits quite hard. He's definitely worth a go as I lose my first continue. So as I'm fighting a big old snake. Now you might think I might do my genital facts about snakes, but I've done that to death already. So let us talk about something a bit more to do with the setting. And of course it's a fantasy setting, but it could be construed as a medieval setting. So let's talk about the medieval nature of where we are. So a lot of sex is a sin thought. It's not obviously a lot of it comes from the Bible, but it's also from the fact that they seem to have that backed up by the punishment from God. Allow me to talk to you about Arnauld de Verrue, a French cleric who said, "At the time they were burning lepers as I lived in Toulouse, one day I visited a prostitute. After I had perpetrated this sin, my face began to swell. I thought I caught leprosy and never slept with a woman again." So yeah, in medieval times, many cities had a place where you could meet a prostitute, and obviously catching a disease was sort of quite obvious back then because you couldn't have it treated. But the place they used to meet them, weirdly enough, there was always a place in a city, or usually a place in a city such as Banbury or Glastonbury and Shrewsbury, Newcastle and Oxford. They all had one of these. It was quite obvious where you would find a prostitute because they were called... There was a name given to them. And let's just say Grope Count Lane, but take out the O. It's not subtle, is it? It's not a subtle name for where you meet a prostitute. Yes, every street that has since subsequently been called that has changed the name since, obviously. But, you know, it was important for a man to go out and have sex because, and single men, it was advised that they did visit prostitutes because, according to the physicians of the time, too much excess semen could apparently result in headaches, anxiety, weight loss, and death. Death. You could die from not ejaculating, according to these sawbones quacks. Women too needed regular sessions, according to the sawbones of old. They might faint, they might be short of breath, they might die, or they might suffer from this: suffocation of the womb. Who wants to suffer from suffocation of the womb? Sounds like a brilliant name for an album, though. Masturbation was frowned on by the church, obviously, but they did allow it under certain circumstances. So very young men who obviously had no outlet for this, obviously I don't know whether they spoke to the physicians and the clerics and all that. They all got together and went, all right, you can have a cheeky one off the wrist, but there is a heavy cost. It was only under very exceptional circumstances, and it would require 30 days of fasting, at least, if you have one off the wrist. So, you know, how much did you really want to have that one off the wrist if you couldn't eat for 30 days? I mean, that's pretty close to dying, isn't it, at that point? If not already dead. Whether or not it's fasting and the fact that you could maybe have a little bite to eat a night, I don't know. I didn't do enough research, did I? But apparently there was reasons to be fearful because according to some physician records, they discovered a monk who had apparently rustled his jimmies 70 times consecutively. This was what they said about him. They said basically he'd rustled his jimmies so much, he'd pulled one off so much, he'd given himself a good tugging so much that the autopsy revealed that his brain had shrunk to the size of a pomegranate and his eyes were destroyed. So yeah, don't go sinning that much. Next time you're in front of Pornhub, just think about that monk. The monk who issued some, yeah. So there's that, and that's a thing that happened. So yeah, I think it's good that we live in today's society. Maybe, after hearing stories such as that. Because that's awful. I think basically the idea is that they wanted you to get married and just basically shag to your heart's content. Otherwise, you'd either get leprosy or your brain would shrink to a pomegranate. So the game goes nearly over now, so I better tell you what's coming up this week. This week I am doing a video on Bigfoot. You remember Bigfoot, the truck from the 80s, had its own cartoon show. I'm doing a video on that, and then next week I'm going to start doing I'm going to cover all three over in a sort of a 3-part series of the Moonwalker games, because there was kind of 3 different versions of it. There was the one on the Sega machines, the one I think most people are familiar with, which was the one on the Master System, the Mega Drive, and maybe the Game Gear. I haven't started doing it yet. And then there was the arcade game, and then look at me being a tiny little rabbit. And then there was the home computer ones, and I'll save that one for last because it was terrible. And there I am. My last few moments were as a rabbit. I got killed by a gargoyle, and that's the end of my go. So until next time, I wonder who's going to win this one. Go and have a look at the other videos, and hopefully you'll see someone get a bit further than me. Have a go yourself too. But until next time, like, subscribe, and thanks, bye.